And so I'm going to record. You'll notice that my sidekick, Emily, is not here today. She is a pet parent that lost one of her babies yesterday. And so she is recuperating from that this morning, having been a never birthed a child, but birthed so many pets. I understand completely. So I'm kind of pinch hitting for as far as the data is concerned and all the information. So what I've discovered is that it's easiest just to kind of talk through the situation and what it is we're going to be doing. Oh, that's much better. Now I got my gallery so I can see all your faces. It's way more fun that way. I was just seeing one or two and they are beautiful, but I want to see everybody if I can. So, so let me tell you where we're at with this process. So about 2 weeks ago, right before the very first meeting, I stopped the guy from Business and IT, Mark Birch, and I stopped Corey, who's my boss, in the hallway, and we said, listen, we need to know something right now. You know, this is the real deal. Yes or no? Are we going to set a number? And the answer was, yes, you're going to set a number. Now, so we went ahead and we've done 3 meetings now, I believe 3 or 4, and we have probably 5 or 6 more scheduled this week. So we're going to be busy, busy girls. I spent some time. Okay, so here's the bad news. We haven't been able, because last week we started doing program accreditation site visits. And so half of our team was doing the site visit. We haven't had a meeting with all of the program managers and Corey and Sandra from financial aid. Sandra came in on Friday and we had a long discussion about, I understand that as I was going through the very first meeting, that there were financial aid advisors getting in touch with Sandra, helping her see that I maybe didn't know anything I was talking about. Now she just logged on, and Sandra, I'm not talking bad about you. I'm saying that you helped me understand. So she's there now. She can wave. Hey, she's here. But she did help me understand that what we may not have thought through everything with third-party accreditors. So the most important thing I want you all to hear today is that we are here as, hello, we are here at, no, you have to come sit up here with me. Don't make me, don't be behind me. That's creepy. No, they know you're coming. Everyone, they all know. Hey, Pep Club, Dana's here. You're supposed to say, hey, Dana, right? You remember that when you were in the elementary school here? You were a Shakota cheerleader. Yeah, okay. So what we found out was that if you have a third-party accreditor, you are going to still be able to reference that number of hours in your accreditation. So all my PN directors, big deep sigh of relief. Don't need anyone freaking out anymore. If you're accredited by the Board of Nursing, if you're accredited by by ASIN, those numbers will supersede what we come up with today. Okay, so you're going, so why are we here? Well, yeah, you're right. So why are we here? We're here because I still want to give all of the practical nursing instructors a voice about what you think could be different in our curriculum plan. Now, I do realize that every single one of your schools may be different, okay? So I'm going to show you some commonalities, but I want to do a little bit of a history lesson with you first, if you won't fall asleep. Let me do share, and let me do this. Oops, I should have done that, right? I should have put this up first and then hit share, and now I can't do it. I need something that looks, why is the other one showing but not this one? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Sorry, everyone. Oh, is it Monday? Hang on. Okay, this is it. Okay, so we're going to take a walk back to 2008. I can feel your excitement. I'll stop and think what we were doing in 2008. I don't know, but things didn't hurt as bad then. I can promise you that. So this is a document that our practical nursing directors put together in 2008. It was taken to the Board of Nursing, and some of you have probably never seen this. And this is what has has been our guide for practical nursing courses and so on since that time. So I just want to show you, and I do have a revised in September 16th, 2024. I don't know if that's true because that's today and I haven't done anything yet, but I just wanted to show you that we actually did, believe it or not, in case you've ever wondered, where did they come up with all this crap? Well, we used to have a curriculum. Some of you may still use it. And these are the sections or the units of curriculum. We have concepts of nursing, fundamentals of nursing, pharmacology, Med-Surg 1, Med-Surg 2, maternal newborn, pediatric, mental health, maternal child, transition to practice, and I believe it's 4 or 5 clinicals. Okay, so I don't know how that sounds to you personally, because I know right now you're in your mind thinking of your curriculum, what it is that you cover. What I wanted to show you here is that this is how, when we went to the Board of Nursing, this is how we set it up so they could understand what it was we were doing, basically. There's a number of programs that did at the time or currently have done med-term and anatomy and physiology as prerequisites. Many of our programs that transition into nursing also offer these courses. They offer concepts of nursing and long-term care. Many of our transition programs, everyone calls it something different, but basically it's LPN for high school. Also do fundamentals, and then I believe both clinical 1 and clinical 2. No clinical 2, just clinical 1. Okay. So yeah, and then pharm and IV. So everyone kind of can do, you could set it up however you want it, but this is the magic number that we came up with that was 1,463 hours. Again, this is going through each of these. It's much easier to see if I turn down to this document. Isn't that pretty? Look, who knew? So all of my new teachers out there are going, what? Why have I never seen this? Well, because I'm sure your school may have done some edits to it, and it's probably better than it was in 2008.
I think in 2016, didn't they take it back to the board? I think they revised it in 16.
Yeah, but I don't have, this is the document, the only one I had on my computer. So, but it's still the same basic stuff.
They
if
read
that-
the objectives in 16.
Right, we
Yeah.
redid the objectives, so you can see, and actually in this document, and I'm pretty sure this is out there on the PN, on CTU under practical nursing, all of this information, but in case you ever wanted to see, there's all your, every module, every course description, everything. So, that's where we started. And what we did is, we took these objectives to the Board of Nursing, and I believe it was, I want to say 16 of our 25, 26 nursing programs at the time. We had 29 campuses or 29 districts, and EOC Tech at the time, and they still don't have a program, and at the time Northwest didn't have a program either. So and since that time, obviously we've added some. So that's where we started. That's where we came up with the 1463. It was done with literally years of many of your PN directors sitting in this very conference room, as a matter of fact, and where we talked through objectives, we'd bring our homework back, we'd put it together, and then my staff would meet with our curriculum writers, and we would go from there. So that is kind of where we've been. Now, your PN directors have visited this repeatedly at our retreats and our meetings. So I'll talk about that in just a second, but Curtis, I see your hands up. Do you want to go ahead and say something?
Sorry, no, I was just running my hand through my hair.
Your hand on your screen.
Your hand on your screen is up.
My hand on my screen is up.
Yeah, it looks like you had, you can raise your hand. Oh, it's not anymore. Okay. Way to go, Curtis. Come on.
You're
now.
welcome.
And we keep him around for laughs. So I'm going to stop and see if anyone has any questions right now before we go any further about where we started. Any PN directors have any comments? Okay, so when we have met as a PN directors group, they have a retreat every fall, and we have brought out the standards, brought out the curriculum, and talked through what should we do, what should we not do, and so on. Is there anything that needs to go? Is there anything that needs changed? Is there, and so on. And what we have, actually have not done, we haven't done any specific changes to the actual framework, knowing that if and when we do, we will need to take this group back to the Board of Nursing. So that when I say this group, if the same, whoever is still using the 1463 as your curriculum outline, I know that we would probably have to go back if there was any substantive changes, correct? Okay, still not a nurse, so yeah, okay, nods are good. So I would really be interested in hearing what you all have to say, though. Our PN directors will be meeting again this fall. I don't want the instructors to feel afraid to say anything because there's directors on here. But I would love to know, we've heard many times that there are that we need to shift it around and put more hours in clinicals. We also know that the rules have changed a little bit, and not a little bit, the rules have changed as far as simulation goes. And by having more hours dedicated, the simulation hours would have to come out of clinical hours, is basically what I'm trying to say. Isn't that true?
2 to 1.
Right. And then depending on if you have a SIM certified person, then you could offer your SIM hours through clinical.
You
Or
have 600 clinical hours too,
you have that.
to be able to offer 2 to 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
At least 600 hours of clinicals to be able to offer 2 to 1 is what Dana says. So, but I'm interested, I don't know if you would like to go through, I can show you, let me do this other thing. And let me share. I always forget that second share. So this is a minute line here. We have Emily has put together, let me start there, with a list of she's put together a list of every school and what they have submitted for into the framework, okay? So this may or may not be correct. It's just, I don't know what this little dude is. Anyone annotate? How do I get rid of him? Okay, no, I don't want to do that, but I want him to go away so I can do this. Anyone? I don't know, little annotate dude. Okay, but I wanted to come back this way, so that's fine. Okay. This is where we're at right now. So I want you to be able to see what every school, every campus asked for this year, okay? So you can see over here is the numbers. The actual rules and regs for the Board of Nursing says between 1,300 and 1,600 hours. But that's as much as they will say. They don't say this is, we're setting it at XYZ. Again, the numbers 1463 include, or the model included long-term care, med-term, anatomy and physiology, and well, CPR first aid goes in safety anyway, but yeah. And many schools have them as prerequisites, but this is kind of important too. These numbers, whatever this number is, should still include those prerequisites. Does that make sense? Because this number should be the complete total of what it is that you're teaching. So like West Watkins here, it says 1253, and I'm pretty darn sure that you are teaching at least 1,300 hours. I'm not trying to call anyone out. I'm just showing you some that are a little bit, the number's actually a little bit lower than 1463. So I'd love to visit. So Northeast, Janet, I know you're there. I saw your face a minute ago.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
the 1327 that was turned in, what is it that are some of your prereqs taken out of that?
Yes.
That's
Yes,
actually the number that they would get financial aid for then.
correct.
Okay, what do you have taken out of that 1327?
See, long-term care and med-term.
And med term, okay? So yours is really about what, right at 1,400 and what? 20, 30? I mean, if you added those two things back in, that's all I'm asking.
Yes, if you add those two back in, then it would be 1463.
Okay. And,
Ours is the same. We have 1388. We give long-term care as a prerequisite. And so if you add ours back in, it would be 1463.
okay, so she says they have 1388, but they add the long-term care is a prerequisite. And so if you added that back in, it'd be 1463. I know, let's see, Metro, I saw you guys there. Are you in there, Jenny? I saw Jeremiah was there. Are you in there too?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, tell me what it is. Do you have some things as prerequisites?
We have long-term care, medical terminology, and AMP, so our total would be 1513.
Okay. Okay. And I know Southern, we talked the other day, Amanda, or I don't know if you're on here or not. Wasn't Southwest, it was Southern. I don't know if anyone from Southern's on.
Yes, we're on.
Okay, so you're 1350, do you do prereqs?
No, we don't have any prerequisites.
So 1350 is your total, and that's with long-term care and A&P and med-term included.
We don't have long-term care. We give points if they have their CNA in their application process. We don't include long-term care, but we do have A&P med-term.
Okay, so the long-term care you would get as part of concepts and clinical one?
It's not included in our program.
They're requiring it. And they give extra points for it, but they're not counting it as a prereq.
Okay. Okay. Wes Watkins, Rhonda, are you on? Or Molly?
Yes, we're on. Me and Miss Sam.
Tell me, we have 1253 down for you all. What do you do?
Well, when we add our prereqs, we have 1493 and we need long-term care, med-term and A&P
That's prerequisites.
as prereqs.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So you can see, I don't know who was 1207.
That's us, that's Mid-Dell Tech, Laura, and they don't
Okay.
have those aren't our prerequisites are not added either. We have the three, med-term, A&P, and long-term care as prereqs. And so our total is
Okay.
1463.
Okay, okay. So, so this last year, what we were able to do was just attach some sort of justification that basically said, this is what we're doing. Oh, I see it now, so sorry. This is what we're doing, and this is how we, this is our program of study. These are prereqs, these aren't, blah, blah, blah. And we were able just to move on down the road. Sandra, are you still on? Sandra McKnight?
Oh, yes, I was trying to be silent, unobtrusive.
Well, when you see these numbers and you heard that conversation just now,
Yes,
I'm guessing that I'm guessing that you may have something that you want to chime in on.
well, and I was typing a little lovely paragraph in the chat, but yes, because of our limitations in CTIMs, several years ago, districts began removing. Can everybody hear me okay, or am I shouting at you? I
No,
apologize.
you sound great.
Okay. Because of the limitations of what we can put in CTIMs, and then the fact that we use that to generate our approved programs list, most districts that have prerequisites pull those prerequisites out of the course list, out of that local program hour column. You could actually have two different numbers generated here. This column C would be what you teach, what they teach. PN instructors teach when the student is enrolled as a practical nursing student. So this column C could be without the prerequisites, where the sum could still have the prerequisites. We've always understood if you have prerequisites that you've gotten a transcript for those or verification for those, whatever, however that looks, that a student has to have successfully passed it at the level you set. Again, you have control of that level for the most part, you and the Board of Nursing. And so you've got that information before they're accepted as a PN student. And then when they complete, that is part of their plan of study and official transcript that you then sign off on as their technology center for ability to take the NCLEX. And so we've never assumed you weren't checking and tracking those courses. And so this was never putting your prereqs, pulling them out, was more about what accreditation is approving to be Title IV eligible and what your practical nursing teachers are actually responsible for teaching when the student is enrolled. So we've understood that. Did CTIMS do a good job of tracking that? This meeting and Laura's questions is obvious to me, no. That you've had to speak up and remind who has prerequisites and what your totals are. So that attached document of what the Board of Nursing approves each of your districts as, I know you have access to it, so maybe that continues. Maybe we need to have CTIMS have a function that recognizes that. That would be Laura, Health, and this audience's request if you needed that.
And our other adult programs, we're in the exact same situation. Surge Tech, we have Rad Tech next week or this week, I guess. Anyway, many of those have MedTerm, A&P as prerequisites. So, so that's why I would ask you to say something, Sandra, because when I look through the list, I'm thinking, oh, is that confusing? Because we don't really do 1,240, or you know what I mean? We're really doing 1463. You know, when you look at the entire, all of the courses together, and Andrea, I see your hand. So I'll let Sandra answer this and then we'll come back to you.
And so, yes, I mean, and because of the one-on-one conversations I've had with some of these very familiar faces about, but we have prerequisites. That has been my point, is that yes, you still have to have record of that. You still sign off on that. You evaluate that advanced standing before you accept them. And you verify that a student had it before you send them to take their boards, would be my understanding. If this group wants a better way to document that between now and director meeting, let Laura know. One way it could happen in the current system is your local hours here would be just that, what the local PN instructors teach. Course hours could still include those prerequisites, and you would annotate them with a note that says this is a prereq or something. I think in this interim time, the last several years, We just known that. We knew that you had it on your plan of study as a prereq. When I'm out for a 5-year visit and I have a practical nursing folder, almost every one of them will have a plan of study in it that shows, these 240 hours or these X number of hours were prereqs received either, a variety of ways. So questions of me?
Andrea, do you have a question for Sandra?
Maybe. I was just wondering if we could define prereqs versus advanced standing. And do they count as the same? Are they the same? I'm always confused about prereqs versus advanced standing. I'm assuming the prereq is something that they're required to have before they can get into our program. And the advanced standing is something that if they're not required to, but if they have it, then we can give them credit for that. And we would include that in our total course hours, either way. But my concern, and I think we talked about it in the PN directors meeting, is how does that affect seat hours? Because then the seat hours would have to match the curriculum hours. And if they're getting their seat hours for prereqs and or advanced standing somewhere else, how do we reconcile that?
So 1463 is in 2008, that number, because we are a clock hour system, does represent 1,463, excuse me, I said it wrong, 1,463 60-minute increments. That should have been part of the thought process. We don't go backwards, we only go forwards. The thought process, and I pick on midterm, Laura's heard me many times because it's that easy example. The thought process at some point should have been the average student needs 45 hours to be successful, competent in midterm. They're studying, they're working, they're quizzing, they're doing those things. There'll be students that finish it quicker. We've all met them. There'll be students that 90 hours later, they still are terrified to take the exam. And somewhere in the middle, that 45 was arrived at. So in the case of a prerequisite, those hours are subtracted off because they've gotten the credit for that. The assumption would be they've also done the time. And in advanced standing, there's quite a bit of talk about advanced standing for work experience, advanced standing for life experience in other areas. I'm certain that nursing will have a way at some point to also evaluate advanced standing for those things. But you have advanced standing often when a student starts your program, maybe has a life experience, needs to take a leave of absence that turns into actually a withdrawal and they're gone more than 6 months, and then they want to come back. They may have been enrolled with you 600 hours that first round, but actually only completed 400 or 450 that qualified for return advanced standing. And so that also then comes off of their total. We try to keep the math as simple as we can. And so, and we want you to be able to do that as well. So when we talk about the seat time, I'm really not, I don't want to sound difficult. It really is about instructional time. That the assumption is a student needs that many hours of interaction and access to instruction. And that includes your clinical time. But we know we're learning, like from a fire hose at clinicals. And so that's what that is. Now, our instruction has changed. In my 17 years or 18 years with Career Tech, instruction has changed from being a textbook and a lecture to more online interactive. And maybe that goes faster. I know you have students that study and work at home, and I apologize that without distance ed, we're not equipped to honor that time, even though they might test and end up ahead. So we do have a mechanism in the financial aid portion of adult student enrollment to allow them to be an early completer and then to adjust those funds.
So so just to clarify from my understanding, if they have completed midterm before they come, then we count those hours as clock hours and seat hours because we know that they've completed them somewhere.
And you've got a transcript, you've got a certificate of records, you've got something to verify that they did complete that program at the grade you require. I know some of you do a skills assessment or a follow-up. You know, it's been 3 years since you had XYZ. Here, take this test. Let's see how you score. Yes, your skills are great. You're still there. I don't want to oversimplify anything you do, but yes, Andrea, you would be taking 1463 or 1508 or 1370, whatever your school's been approved with the Board of Nursing, or you'd be subtracting off the value of the advanced standing. And certainly that's what a prerequisite is for certain. And so when your financial aid officers and I have visited and they say, is this a prerequisite? And I say, does every student have to do it before they're a practical nursing student? Because that's a prerequisite. Every student. There's not exceptions. If there are exceptions, then it's guidance, it's a want, it's what you prefer, but it's not a prerequisite. And so we leave those alone and let those remain as advanced standing per student. So.
Thank you.
What other questions do you all have? Oops. Well, then let's get into just some overall suggestions. I'm not sure who iPhone 6 is, but they would like to see 40 hours for simulation that stands alone from clinical. Also more time in Med-Surg 2. So you can type, you can talk, I don't care. But like when you say more time, my question would be, where do we take it from? Or is this just adding more hours on? And is there and when you say Med-Surg 2, is it Med-Surg 2 clinicals or Med-Surg 2 the classroom information? Don't be scared, y'all.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah.
Just real quick, we came in, we had trouble getting on. What's the goal? Like, what is it specifically that we're working?
Well, our goal was to come up with a number, and like I said what I found out on Friday is that with third-party accreditors, we will still set a number. Like if you said, hey, Laura, you have to do this tomorrow, I would set the number at probably 1463 because that's what most people have. That's it. Not for any other better reason than that. But I also know that we will, whatever we ends up doing, we will not, your third-party accreditation will supersede anything that we put here. Now, there's many other program areas that do not have third-party accreditors, or similar to the Board of Nursing, they give no, this is the number, you know. It would be super helpful if like RadTech would say, hey, your magic number is this X number of credit hours, or 2,972. Maybe that's the magic number, and everyone has to do that. But I haven't found an accrediting body yet that will say, this is what you need to do. What they say is pass the test. No one wants to say, this is what it takes to pass the test. And so we all just stumble along and we do the best that we can. I'm completely fine with leaving that. Again, we have not spoken to the entire group. I know Brent's out of the office today, so, but we're going to need to bring Brent and Corey, my boss, up to speed on the fact that we're going to have to allow the accreditation numbers instead of just whatever we said is what we said. Okay, so, and this is where Sandra started. She said she was typing a paragraph, and this is her paragraph she started. So if you have your chat feature open, you can see.
And I want to verify that Laura and I had had this conversation before, and that was Laura had the original understanding, and then she got firm instruction from another source, no standardized. And we've been trying really hard not to talk about all the exceptions, but it's very obvious, clear that practical nursing is an exception in the fact that you have individually been approved for your program hours. And so, and that's why I told Laura, I said, if Director Haken and you are prepared to take a new plan of study to the Board of Nursing and say, this is our standardized one, and this is what everyone's going to teach, that's a different scenario than requesting every one of our district programs to do that independently. Those are two different scenarios for sure. So it wasn't, I don't want, Laura's really taking the hit on this, and I don't know that she needs to so much. So.
Well, you know, I'm used to it though, sister, because I put myself out there. So it is what it is.
Laura, this is Corey. I'm gonna hop in here real quick.
Sure.
Because I've been in and out listening to comments, and so I have not heard the full story as far as what's happening with this particular position. But from the beginning, our third-party certifying entities have always superseded anything that we said. You will always fall back to third parties. Now, and this wouldn't necessarily be the case with this particular group of people, but let's say you're in a situation where some groups would be aligned with the third-party certification and then other groups are not, then the state hours would come into play.
And that was Surge Tech. That was where we started, and that was the discussion that you and I had. And I, in my head, when I heard, okay, it's our number, not what they say, then I don't know. So, but now, that's great, because we are good to go. No one has to worry about changing anything, but this group I know has wanted some feedback on specific changes that we could make to the overall framework. And so that, and I think that we're moving on to that part. But thank you, Corey, for speaking up too. I did, when you and I talked the other day, I did, but it was specifically that group that I was working with, and part of them have third-party accreditation, and part do not. So yeah, it's, health is the most confusing, I promise. We make everything difficult, if you guys don't know that. So Amanda's suggestion, you're not ruffling feathers, Amanda. Why does long-term care have to be part of the PN program? Can we use these hours as basic nursing care and fundamentals and split the hours up between other courses? Our students can get a training exemption to their CNA if they choose to get their certification. Okay, and I saw Larissa agreed and Andrea agrees. So other thoughts?
Laura, that's how ours is set up too with Canadian Valley. We have it diversified out through the other courses in fundamentals and fundamentals too, and nursing
Okay.
concepts.
Yeah, we don't have it as a prerequisite. It's split up between our hours.
Okay. Just devil's advocate, do you have any concern about people coming into your classes that have never touched a human before?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. I literally have some students that have come straight out of the oil field that's some of my best students ever. They do fine.
Sometimes a blank slate is nice.
Absolutely. It's sometimes easier to work with that than break habits.
Right.
So how many hours do you all have in fundamentals?
160.
I have 186.
We have 165 in fundamentals 1 and 70 in fundamentals 2.
Okay.
Laura,
Sure, Curtis.
back in 2016, you know, when we worked on the framework back then, I argued to have long-term care taken out.
Uh-huh.
And there were a couple of the tech centers that had completely done away with teaching those skills and had split the other hours up, which is first we decided to take it out, and then eventually it ended up being left alone because there were a number of tech centers that argued that those resources were no longer part of their program, and that's why they were, since they required the CNA to get in, then they had taken those hours and put them elsewhere, and they didn't bother to teach those skills any longer.
Okay. So Larissa, you have your hand up?
I was just gonna say that we've talked about this yearly for the past few years.
Yeah.
And last week we were talking to our students and we asked them if we had, because we do not require long-term care as a prereq currently. And we asked them if we did, how many of them would have still applied, and it was about half. And so it's not only the time they would have to take off work to do that, but also the cost of that, since it then wouldn't be included in their financial aid. But I'm with Amanda, like, I just never can wrap my head around why we're teaching all the long-term care, like the book that we teach from, the state, Oklahoma State Department of Health book. And then the next day, we're teaching them how to think as an LPN and how to act as an LPN and the role of an LPN. So like Amanda does in her program, if we could roll those hours into basic nursing care hours and fundamentals, that's what I would like.
So we would just, your suggestion would be to take long-term care off of the course list and to take that 91 hours that it currently has and put that into fundamentals.
I think it's 75 curriculum hours and then 16 clinical hours.
Right. Well, yes, there's 75 is the minimum, but an additional 16 hours is for Alzheimer's education.
So
And
if we do something like that, though, this is going to have to go before the Board of Nursing, correct?
Curtis,
Because it's
yes, I think it's just because
Yeah.
Curtis wants to see me at the Board of Nursing now that he's
Yeah.
on.
Yes, he does, I'm sure.
Yeah, it would have to go before the board
Yeah.
because that would be a
A
substantial
significant change, right?
And that's what we did within our program. And like I like we've heard, the hardest part is teaching them to be a long-term care aide and then teaching them how to interpret that information as a nurse. And so we have absorbed our long-term care into but the hours went into clinical 1, and then into intro of nursing and fundamentals, we absorbed the regular theory hours that went in. And we took it to the board and they approved us to not have that class anymore. But we just moved the objectives and everything over. And this is going to be our first class that we're doing it with, is our July start. But we're already, the struggle is, well, the objectives speak to long-term care and we're a practical nursing program. So maybe if we could somehow adapt the long-term care part to actually teach those basic skills, which everybody needs. But from the perspective of a nurse, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. That's what we're running into anyway.
So here's my question. I need to understand, if they are not, if a student in your class does not do the long-term, let's just say long-term care skills of bed making, vitals, transfers, bed bath, all those kinds of things. Let's just say they aren't doing those skills, or they are not doing that as part of long-term care anymore. Do they still get those skills as part of your fundamentals?
That's what we do. We teach it as basic nursing care in our fundamentals course.
So
We
you still
don't
teach
separate
all
it out
the
as
skills?
CNA work. We tell
Okay.
them that it's basic nursing care and every nurse is taught how to do those skills.
Okay.
But then at
Just
a
second.
certain point
Speak
through the
Saturday.
program, they qualify to take the CNA if they choose to get the certification.
Right. Okay. Darlene? Oh, we can't hear you. I don't know why. Your thing it's off, like it's supposed to be working. No. No. To put it in the chat. Can you type it in the chat for us? Okay.
I'll just say what we do is we have absorbed the skills. So whenever our students would go to long-term care to do the bed baths and the primary care, then we've absorbed that into our clinical hours. And so those are the first clinicals that they go to, and they only do the bed making and the feeding and all the things that you would teach in long-term care, but we teach them now in our intro and fundamentals courses.
Okay.
Hey, Andrea, this is Dana. How many total program hours do you have? Is it 1463? And how many fundamental hours do you have?
We
Isn't
have
the 160?
We have 1463, and our fundamentals now we have 154, but 40 of those are lab hours. And we have increased our clinical 1 to 104 hours to absorb the 16 hours that we were teaching long-term care. And our intro to nursing is 57 hours.
So Amanda and Andrea, do you feel like, because we require CNA as a prerequisite coming in, our students have a lot of opportunities in the Tulsa area to have that, both day, evening, short term through our ACD programs, and also private places in the community. They get a lot of those done. So that, and we have a wait list and all that. So that whole scenario for us is not a problem or a concern. And we certainly go back over those skills, make sure students are confident in those and the hours that they have in clinical, that type of thing. So do you feel like that that's different because of different locations? I know we kind of talked about that in our meeting this last week, how different we all are. And a lot of times it's simply because of demographics of students and location and things like that, because we do not see that as a problem in our area.
You know what, we would get students that would come in with a CNA that had never done anything other than what they had done. You know, just getting those hours so they could just, now we're a CNA, so now I can go do things. But they never did anything. And so we would assume, because they had taken the course and had the hours, that when we took them to the hospital, they could make a bed or they could give a bed bath. This allows one of our clinical instructors to actually go with them to kind of follow them through that process. And we teach that process so that we know kind of what they're doing. And it helps us not to have to reteach a lot of that whenever we were having them come in with a CNA. Now they actually have to everybody has to start at the same place and go through. And that's where we learn how to break some of those habits and how to really teach somebody how to give the bed bath and how to do the things. Like I said, the one thing is teaching them from the objectives that we have, teaching them from the nursing side, because we want to teach them when you teach vital signs, we want to teach the nursing part of it, but that's, you know, when they're in long-term care, those skills, you kind of have to teach them just how to do it, who to report to, the delegation side, and where to go. And then whenever we get them into fundamentals and they actually start doing their clinical ones, we tell them, you're going to learn a lot more about this because, you know, you're going to learn it from a different book. So it's been a challenge, and our clinical instructors are very aware of what we need to do, and it seems to be working so far. This is just our first class, so but I think it's going to be the best fit for our program.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, we've got 3 hands up. So Darlene, you get to go first. Anna's giving up her computer for you. And
So y'all can hear me? I know. Okay.
We can hear you now.
Awesome. All right. So we do require long-term care and medical assistant as prerequisites for our students. One of the
medical
reasons.
Assisting?
Pardon?
Medical term.
I thought you said medical assisting, med-term. Okay.
No, med-terms, long-term care and med-terms. So actually our current program is at 1583 if we count those hours in instead of 1463. My understanding, the way that Sandra explained it, if it's a true prerequisite to where it's required prior to your course, you don't have to include those hours in. So piggybacking off of Amanda's suggestion that we not have the long-term care within that PN curriculum, and then those that are wanting those extra hours, those hours would actually be just nursing hours. And then those programs that like them to have those prerequisites, fine, you can still do that. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does. It sounds like you agree with a number of your colleagues.
Yeah, so we pull the long-term out of the current curriculum with board approval, obviously. And then those programs that want them as prerequisites, that's fine. It's a prerequisite and the hours don't really impact your total hours, correct? Because it's prerequisite opposed to advanced standing?
No, if it's, I thought if it was a prerequisite, then that was still something that would show up in your plan of study. So it would count towards your hours. I think and Sandra, you can bail me out if I'm wrong, but I think, and I believe the prior learning assessment, you know, where you're giving credit for something that's already done, I think that's different. I think in that situation, we don't count the hours, but I'll get back to you on that. Curtis, you're next.
I was just curious, if we took the long-term care out, would we still be able to require the CNA to come into the program?
I think you can require whatever you want. No one's ever said you couldn't. Christy,
Okay.
what do you have to say? Part of your admission criteria. Oh, wait, Christy, we can't hear you. You need to unmute.
Okay, we offered the CNA, when we went in front of the Board of Nursing in 2008, we took out CNA, put it as a prerequisite and added our own course called Success Strategies. And I've never heard, this is the first time I've ever heard that you add your prerequisite in your total hours. First time I've ever heard that. So I've always just counted 1463, and we offer CNA as a prerequisite. Have never counted, because we made a 91-hour Success Strategies course over 3 trimesters. And that's how the Board of Nursing approved us. And we've been through 3 evaluations since then. And that's the way it's gone. I've never heard this add your prerequisites in the total hours.
I don't know if Sandra's listening or not.
Because
Sandra,
there's several
right?
people that have jumped on here and have also had that same question. They have their prerequisites are not included in their total hours.
Christy, real quickly, on my last Board of Nursing survey, my program's always been listed as 1463, just like yours, even though we had those prerequisites. And it's been since the 2008. And then on my last Board of Nursing survey visit, Terry noticed that and said, oh, even though the board approved the 1463 in your total program hours, you need to add those hours in.
Okay, because we went through in 2020 and
Yeah, I know. So that's why I
Okay.
said, we're actually 1583, even though we've always said 1463. That's actual PN. What my PN instructors teach are 1463 hours. But we have
Right.
those other 2 prerequisites. Like I said, it was in the last survey visit that Terry caught that and said, we'll go ahead and tell the board 1463 because that's what they approved you for. And the prerequisites was listed on what the board approved me for, but the hours wasn't added in, so.
Right, because we actually in our proposal to the board replaced those 91 hours with a new course. So that's what's in our 1463. And that's how it was approved by the board.
Okay, I may have to get back with you on that and get something actually in writing to each of you. And it sounds like it may be something, maybe we need to have another follow-up call that's just on the numbers issue. Okay. So so we talked about long-term care and getting rid of long-term care. Okay, I heard that. Taking it out. So I'm gonna go back to the numbers just because I don't know what everyone else can see. So I'm just gonna go back to here and we're going to share. And this, oh, we didn't care about that. Sorry, wrong thing to share. Stop share. I have to do it step by step, like it's my brain. Because obviously my brain doesn't think. So this is the numbers that the numbers that we have. I don't care. So you can see here that we've had long-term care. That was, there we go, 75 and 16. Concepts, and you see this hasn't been updated since that long-term care, the requirement for dementia education was added in. But it says in the rules, you have to have 75 hours for long-term care. And then it says you have to provide 16 hours of dementia training, 16 hours of dementia training. So they kind of snuck more hours in. Most of your short-term courses do about 120 hours anyway. Well, forget this. We'll just take this baby right off. Boom. So that takes us back up to anatomy and physiology, med term. So I've heard a lot of you say that med term has been a prerequisite, that they have it before they come in. I know some people teach it as part of anatomy and physiology. I know, and I don't want to belabor the part of these things, but if there's something that we can do that gives you more flexibility, if we take some of this stuff off, we can do that. Concepts of nursing. Does anyone still do concepts? Everybody should. Yeah, most of you know. Curtis says no. Are you doing the same things in college? Yeah, I bet you are, because it's got safety, it's your communication, it's I can't think here. I can't think what they all are.
Adult learning.
But it's a lot of the most basic stuff. Sorry.
Well, back in 2016, we changed it to Intro to Nursing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. There, concepts. So it is learning skills, communication, teamwork. So this is what I consider core for all the other health careers: professionalism, ethics and law, and healthcare systems. So, and I think one of those in there is safety too. Oh, it's in fundamentals. Okay. So are we good with introduction to nursing? So I need to make sure concepts equals intro to nursing.
Not everyone, I'll say this for Northeast Tech, the PN director at the time did not go to the board and have our stuff changed over. So we still call it concepts of nursing.
Okay. Do you, does anyone, I guess my question is, does anyone have a beef with concepts? It's 40 hours. You may have it packaged a different way in another course or something like that, but I'm just scrolling so you can see the hours or the concepts that are taught. Bring that: conflict, professional development, human growth and development, and so on. Any concerns? Good with intro, good with intro. Okay. Sorry, trying to flip through and read as much as I can. At least Dana can sit here and say, y'all, she's trying. She's struggling, but she's trying. I want to go faster, but close your eyes, everybody. Don't get sick. Don't get sick. Eat. Yeah, here it is. No, I want to go up to this. Beep. Yes. Okay. So fundamentals are where I've heard a lot of you say, I've heard 160, 186, 165, and 70, 172. So I've heard a lot of different things. This is the one that I believe we just talked about. If we took long-term care, nurse aid out, that fundamentals is where we would like that back in. And wait, I see people coming in on the chat, so. Yes, Darlene, I just don't have them on my personal computer. I'm sorry. So everyone have a lockstep program to teach 6 hours a day. Yes, I think that is a true statement, Larissa. Okay, Jeremiah, you said ours is 42 for fundamentals, the whole thing?
I think so.
Or you
That was concepts. It's 42. We like weird numbers like 42 and 62, and
okay.
we like weird numbers like that, but we're 162 for
just making them
fundamentals.
Okay, good times.
Hey, but Laura,
Uh-huh.
you tell us it's 160, it'll be 160. We're not gonna do it. Seriously.
This would be my dream. Oh God, Larissa, I can't wait to see this.
We'll make
No,
it
I
happen
was,
at Metro.
I meant to put something after that. So disregard, this would be my dream. I'll show y'all what my dream is. Y'all can shoot me down real quick and in a hurry.
Do you
And
want
I'm curious, who's on 7 hours with the 1 hour for lunch? I'm sorry, I don't know DDYE.
David is that you? Are you DYE?
Tri-Tech, Tri-County, okay.
Tri-County, okay.
Got you.
Okay, so Anna, Green Country does 168 for fundamentals 1 and 2. You split it between, or you have a fundamentals 1 and 2?
I think to Darlene's comment is that not everybody had to go with that state curriculum. So that's why some people still have 5 courses. But state curriculum is showing 5, but in 16 it went to 4.
It went to 4 clinicals? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, Darlene. So a lot of the hours are different. Yeah. Darlene, do you have that piece of paper? No. If you have it and can lay hands on it, I'm more than happy to let you screen share it. So we did split fundamentals into fundamentals 1 and fundamentals 2.
It's just fundamentals on the state curriculum.
Okay.
And it's 160 hours.
Okay, so. Okay, we have.
It's just like it is on that. It didn't change in 16.
Okay. So raised hand is iPhone 6. Okay, iPhone 6, go ahead.
Sorry, Laura, this is Linda and Rhonda here at West Watkins. Our internet went down in the middle of our Zoom, so we're on the phone.
I understand.
Am I hearing this correctly, that you could remove the long-term care from your curriculum plan with the Board of Nursing approval, put those hours back in your plan in a way that accommodated what you thought you needed at your school, but still require long-term care as a prerequisite? Have I got that straight in my head?
I think so, yeah. And I think, although we wouldn't call it a prerequisite, yeah, you would have to have advanced standing for long-term care before you came in. And that's the term that keeps it out of the, that's the term that keeps it out of your plan of study.
So it wouldn't be prior learning credit?
No, it would,
we don't include it as a prereq or give advanced standing. We just allow it to count as points on the application process. So we want to teach it because they come in and don't know it. So we don't have it in our curriculum approved by the Board of Nursing. We've absorbed it, but we also don't include it as a prereq anymore or as advanced standing.
That's one of the things that I think I would like to get all of this explained in writing for all of you. Okay, Linda? So this is one of those, these are the things that will help us all talk now that maybe we can do some better, I mean, so we can discuss more later on with the PN directors of the retreat.
Okay.
Okay, no final decision will be made today.
Laura,
Bless you. Yes.
sorry, this is Chelsea Griffith with Pontotoc Technology Center. My question, so I'm a little confused. The overall goal of this meeting, I know you're giving a voice to PN instructors to kind of have a say on, you know, what we teach, our hours, and everybody's kind of chiming in. It seems like some are wanting to remove things, some may be wanting to add things. Are we, the goal of this meeting, are we trying to come up with an ideal number for everybody to teach? Because I know, like you said, so many different programs teach differently and we have different hours. So is the goal that we should all have the same hours, or?
It's not, no, you're not going to have the same hours, okay?
Okay. And then
I will have something I have to put something in the framework as a template.
Okay.
So you all are helping me come up with, this is, I guess we could call it, this is where we started from, okay? And then what you all need to do differently because of your approval with the Board of Nursing and things like that, you can do, okay?
And then also we talked about, you know, as far as prerequisites and adding that into our total hours. A question I have is for financial aid. If we have prereqs, as far as counting them into our curriculum hours, how can that work for financial aid? Say if somebody took a prereq.
It doesn't. If you do not take, if you come in and you've already had med term, long-term care, let's just say, pretend it's like right now today, you don't get to count those hours in their financial aid. Okay?
Okay.
It'd be like, it's almost like, I want to say the word double dipping, but that's not right. So you can only get anything that you all instruct in your classroom, that's what you can get financial aid for, okay?
Okay.
Does that change? Did I cut you off and I didn't mean to?
No, that helps.
Okay. I'm glad you guys are with us, and I thank you so much for speaking up. I'd love to hear from more of the instructors about, you know, clinicals. We've got 4 clinical courses because obviously I don't have the right clinical courses up here. But I would be interested in hearing. I'd be interested in hearing about clinicals, more hours, fewer hours, and also what you guys would like to do as far as simulation. Those right now, they still count as clinical hours, yes? They're not lab, or they are lab, right?
It's simulation is counted as clinical if you choose
Okay, that's what I
to use
thought.
it.
If you choose
If
to
you're
use
approved
it.
by the Board of Nursing.
Yes, if you have at least 600 hours of clinical.
Yeah, if you're doing 2 to 1.
If you're doing 2 to 1.
If you're doing, 2 to 1, then you have to have 600 hours. But if you're just doing 1 to 1, as long as you're approved by the Board of Nursing, then you can count simulation for clinical hours up to 30%. Is that right, guys?
Right.
So, and then if you want to do 2 to 1, it has to be a SIM certified and 600 hours situation and approved by the Board of Nursing, of course. How many people are doing 2 to 1? Can you put that in the chat? I think that would be good to know if you're doing 2 to 1 sim. And then I think an example of how you count that as seat hours for financial aid purposes would be interesting to know from my side. Like if you're doing 2 to 1, so you have an 8-hour clinical day, but maybe you're only 4 hours in sim, but that counts as the 8-hour clinical day. How do you get your seat time for that? Do you flip that over back into theory? So you're getting like clinical hours for the Board of Nursing, but you're then getting 8 hours for financial aid and for your seat time. So I think a good example of somebody who's doing that would be helpful. Maybe even for the State Department too, to know how that we're able to do that.
Yeah, I count 3 hours. I'm reading through the chats in case you think I've fallen asleep and I can't get up.
I had to.
Yay, you're back. We had questions.
And
for you.
I apologize. I've been back for a while. I had to move my car. I didn't read my work email over the weekend, and we're having parking lots repaved here. So, but I wasn't the only one. Every space was full and is now empty. I apologize. We all parked there. We all had to move. So
it's a good time.
On prerequisites, I heard that question and I didn't know whether they felt like they had that answer, but Laura said it right. I mean, if you've done your prerequisite through a short-term program, or you did it while you were a high school student and it still counts, or you were enrolled at OCCC and you did it there and now you've come over to Moore Norman Technology Center. I mean, whatever that scenario is, that's in the past before you were enrolled as a practical nursing student at the school, and you would not get paid for that, but you also don't have to repeat it, and you're not charged for that as you're enrolled. I mean, there are other pluses to that. Someone asked about the 2-to-1 on the SIM, and when I'm going to pick on Metro Tech because they were the school that Laura and I had a variety of conference Zooms with about that. And I'm excited that something can take off time quicker off of the 1463, 1508, 13, whatever. However, it's not physical time, so it might cause a student to complete early. And again, I said earlier, we have a mechanism for that. If a student completes and have passed all their competencies, and because they got to count it 2-to-1, they finish their clinical time in less physical time, then while they would have successfully completed the grades, they would not have successfully completed the clock hour definition. So that student's package would be adjusted, and some money would be returned by the school because they would have finished nursing in less time than the program was originally packaged and awarded for. If that becomes the entire cohort or the entire class's activity every time, then I think you might seriously want to look at adjusting those hours at that school for the clock hour. I wouldn't suggest you do that at the beginning because what I think I've heard is that some students are rocking along and they do the 2-to-1, and there are other students that might do the 2-to-1 on simulation but needed more time in theory, and so they end up in the long run still having adequate seat time to make up for the 2. Have I assumed too much?
I mean, what you said makes sense to me. It seemed like there was another question we had for her too. Will you help me put some things down on paper, Sandra, when we're finished? I know that nobody likes, no, we work for the state. We're not real crazy about putting something in writing, but.
No, she's right. She's right. But this is a group. I mean, I know that somebody said something earlier about demographics, and I know that this is a program. I know the students you serve because of my time at Canadian Valley. I know the students you serve. I know that you have a lot of students in your practical nursing programs that depend on some sort of financial assistance. They're there to change their life for their family. They want to earn money and be a taxpayer. We want that. And so we don't want financial aid to be this big mystery. Your staff at your school wants you to ask them. We want to work together. We also don't want a school to lose the ability to offer financial aid because they didn't understand and we get too many loopholes going. We want to make it work that way, so. Prerequisite question?
So if we take it out and we put, let's say we take long-term care out and we repackage those, hours into other existing courses. If someone, if they require, or would the long-term care, let's say someone, maybe they still require it as a prerequisite for their particular school, would they get, if it was on their plan of study? I guess my question is that it had to do with I guess your definition of, what are they? Yeah, advanced standing versus the prerequisite. That was one of the questions a minute ago, wasn't it, everyone? Y'all were in here with me.
I see. It's always good to know that that everybody's leaving you hanging there too, Laura. Financial aid does it to me every once in a while as well. I go, you're talking crazy. We don't know what you're saying.
I know. Well, I don't know either.
A prerequisite is, like I said, anything that you as a district would require before they are admitted as a practical nursing student at your district. My assumption would be that they would be things that were on your requirements with the Board of Nursing. But I don't know that that's been legislated. I mean, if you wanted everybody to have had keyboarding before they came to practical nursing, I started to call it typing, but I could see enough young faces, they wouldn't even know what I was talking about. That everybody had keyboarding before they came to practical nursing. I guess you could require that. Now, you wouldn't transcript that on what you sent to the Board of Nursing because it's not applicable to what they needed to set for their NCLEX. So that would be those differences on that. I think what Laura and her staff would be approving and making sure you had is that your prerequisites and what you taught equaled what you have approved with the Board of Nursing. If you have extras, then those are extras on that standpoint. Now, with minimum requirements for federal student aid, this 100% certification, that only what you have approved with the Board of Nursing is the max that you could pay, package and pay a student health for. So if you have a prerequisite that has nothing to do, a prerequisite's not getting paid anyway. But if you decided I want to teach keyboarding in my nursing program, then that's when Laura's going to step in and she's going to say, this is not on your required hours with the Board of Nursing. You know, we can't approve you for that. If you want them to have that, that's going to have to be outside of your practical nursing program, not part of your practical nursing program.
Okay, thank you. So Jeremiah, I'm guessing your question is, would we change the 1463?
My question is, are we agreeing that 1463 is the number we all need to get to?
Jeremiah, I'm going to answer that for Laura.
Okay,
no.
Yay.
No, because, and please tell me if I'm wrong, Laura, that right now as a state, as a system, you all are not approved by the Board of Nursing. You're approved by your local entity, your particular school. So where 1463 might be a great number, anyone who's not on 1463 would then have to go back to the Board of Nursing and have that number approved. So like Denise says, hers is 508. And because we don't have a statewide number and the Board of Nursing trumps whatever number we put out, we are still tied to the range. So when Laura comes up with a magic number and you all decide, okay, this is a great magic number, there may be 18 other schools who actually will not land on that number because their Board of Nursing approval has approved them at a different number.
So Corey, the bottom line with that, how does that affect financial aid? Because I think that's what everybody really wants to know. And what our schools are telling us is that if I offer 1388, but the minimum requirement by the Board of Nursing is 1,300 hours, will federal financial aid pay for 1388?
This particular program is very unique because there is not a magic number to land on. It's within a range. And so it's based off of what your school was approved for with financial aid. So is that the best way to make it make sense? Yes, it depends on what your school is. And this is very unique to this particular program area. It's not an across the board thing that would apply to every other area.
Can I ask the question?
Always unique.
We're not at 1463.
Okay.
We're at a different number. It's 1513, but you have us at 1240 because you don't have our prerequisites included, which we have agreed with the Board of Nursing. So 1513 is the number for us.
Okay.
My question is, are we coming up with a magical number that we're all agreed upon? We know that we have to go back to the Board of Nursing and say, hey, listen, it's no longer 1513. It's now 1463 or whatever that number is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're doing here?
Today, no. And eventually I put in the chat that it would be great if we had a standard number, that this is the Career Tech standard. But in listening to the conversation, and in listening to the conversation, I see different needs. And the great thing with Career Tech is that we can encompass all of those needs within our local areas. Eventually, would I like to have a standard number? Sure. Is that realistic in this particular situation? I don't know. And that's the honest answer. I do not know. Can I say that in other areas? Yes, I can give a definitive number. We can come up with a number to land on. Within this particular range, because the Board of Nursing has given a range, we're kind of stuck with what we have.
Yeah. So Jeremiah, the part, I'm going to just go on to say that if our practical nursing directors as a group, or those who, let's just say there's people out there who started with 1463 and that's what they are. If we decide as a group that they would like to take another curriculum plan back to the board and have a group of us, you know, get it approved all at once, we might still do that. That's not a problem. I'm still going to have to put something in the framework that says a magic number, and then I'm going to have to come up with course names and hours. So really, y'all are doing my homework for me when I'm asking all these questions about, you know, should we do more hours in this, fewer hours in that? So I will have something in the framework that represents what our, you know, a number of our programs are doing. Is it going to be perfect for everyone? No. And because of the individuality of every program's approval with the Board of Nursing, you don't have to be all the same. But I think, like I said, it's been 16? So it's been a long time since we've been back to the Board of Nursing, or even really made any finite changes to this framework. So if it's a good time to do this, then it's a good time to do this. You've had some excellent conversations in the what do you call this? Chat. Thank you. And I think it's right. And Janet says, why are we trying to fix something that's not broken? It may not be, but I would just like to know, Darlene, you found the document. If you would like to share your screen and pull that document up, we could just look at what we did in 2016, where we combined and we only have 4 clinical 4 clinicals, and I still think that the PN directors are open to hearing any discussion that teachers have about, we need more time in this, you know, or we need more time in that. It may not be for your individual program because you may do it differently, but it would be helpful to me. So, but I'm not going to, you know, force anyone. Okay, what do you think? Darlene, do you have access? Yay! Okay. Up at the top, there's like up in this, we can make it bigger. I'm laughing because I was in a meeting with a whole bunch of people my age and older, and everyone in the meeting was trying to do this, trying to make the screen bigger. So if you can, there's a plus, there's a what page you're on, and there's a plus and a minus sign up at the very top. If you can get that, try and plus it, make it bigger. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is what we were in 2016, and on the 2008, on the right is 2016. So we just have one fundamentals that's on there. We have pharmacology and IB, we added more hours to it. And then our clinical 1 is the same. Our med-surg 1 stayed the same, basically. Maternal newborn, we added 5 hours. Pediatric, we added 5 hours. Med-surg 2, we added 3 hours. Clinical nursing 2, it looks like that's 30 some, don't make me do math, but it's somewhere around 30 some hours. And clinical 3, we added more hours as well.
The specialties in it is what happened.
Oh, okay.
Were added into clinical 2 and clinical 3. They took the specialty hours
Out
and put
of
them in there.
out of 4, out of maternal
pediatric,
newborn,
and
yeah.
mental health, they put those hours into clinical 2 and 3.
Okay, and then our last clinical 4 is 120 hours. So that would give us 791 hours of didactic or classroom and 672 for clinical. And okay, so now Larissa, you had your hand up?
I think, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think people are confused as to why this is being discussed. And isn't it because of the financial aid that came out this year, that the numbers that they proposed?
Yeah, this year in November, yes, thank you. In November, we had Sandra was on a meeting, and they were saying we have to be, that the states, there was the assumption that we had always had all of our numbers the same. I see Corey, you just popped back on, so I'm going to let you explain the why, so I don't do it wrong.
Okay. There are a couple of different things that are happening. Across the board, unilaterally, there is the discussion as far as a system. It was assumed with our accreditation process that our schools within our system teach the same thing. We're accredited to give, to provide accreditation to our schools. Oklahoma is unique. The state board basically gives the agency the authority to offer accreditation to our technology centers. So it's not just a financial aid issue. The financial aid piece came in with our third-party accreditation. For those programs that have a third-party accreditation, we have to match ours to whatever that third-party accreditation or certification licensing entity says. No questions. If and cosmetology is easy, they give a standard number, and that's the number that they have to meet. With this particular program and the Board of Nursing, there's a range of hours, and each of you have all been approved or accredited independently. There's not just one career tech standard for nursing. It's not broken, as someone said, but it is something that can be looked at unilaterally across the state. When you go through the program, you walk away with one cert. There's one sip and sock for this program area. And our question back to, well, I guess I should say the question that we received is, how come you have students who are sitting for one certification exam? They're enrolled in one SIP and one SOC. There are no additional jobs or entities that are tied to it. Why are the hours so different? And how do you justify that? And that's what I'm trying to get an understanding for in listening to these conversations. How do we justify 1,200 to 1,500 hours? There's a 300-hour difference, but the students are walking away with the same certification. And
so I want to tag on to what Corey just said. Thank you, Corey. But this is exactly, so it's not a big deal, MPN. You guys are very, very similar, very similar. You also have a third party. But there are other areas, like let's just take medical assisting, for example. That is my one I'm terrified of, because we have people that say we do medical assisting in 500 hours, and someone else may say we do it in 1,200, and because there is no one regulating medical assisting in the state of Oklahoma, we've got things from one end of the spectrum to the other. And so it's not necessarily your area that's causing this questioning. It's really because we have a lot of other areas that, and we've all been doing what we needed to do for our students to get financial aid. So in the past, we have, one school might offer it for 600 hours because they know they can get minimum federal financial aid for their students. And another program may be doing a nationally accredited program, and there's, is that many hours, because to sit for that national exam, it takes this much more clinical work. You see what I'm saying? So it's all over the place, and that is part of the challenge. So I can see, Darlene, I love that. I think having that list is a great place to look at. Someone else, Linda, are you iPhone 6? Linda Sanford?
Yes, I'm on the iPhone here.
Is your hand up?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're just saying hi to me.
Hello.
Hi.
I don't know why my hand's up. We tried to raise it earlier and we couldn't get the hand up.
Okay. Well, Darlene showed the hours and things, but I'm just kind of interested. Angela, did that answer your question as to why we're doing this? Ah! There you go.
Yeah, I think so. It's all confusing.
Well, it's not an easy process. I will tell you that. And your PN directors have been going through this. They look at their hours every year and make the question is answered. Am I doing what I need to be doing? So it is. It's intense, and it's exhausting. So Jamie Limpany, how about you? How are you feeling? I'm gonna start calling people out because I want to hear what my teachers have to say.
I think that we need to stick closer to the 1,500 mark to be safe, but I think it would be beneficial if we all got to around about the same number, even though we're independently certified or whatever, approved by the board. I think that we need to stay kind of close to the same thing because we are teaching for the same certificate.
Yeah. Okay. Is it Calissa? Am I gonna say it right, King? Is it Calissa or Carissa? It's Calissa.
It's Kalisa.
Crap. Okay, well, I
You
was
were close.
close.
It was great. Yes.
I didn't enunciate put my right syllables together.
That's all right. You did great. I think this is a lot of information, but I do kind of like the idea of removing long-term care and adding it into foundations, and reducing the hours, but that's just my thought process on it.
Okay. I'm looking for people that are my people. Connie, you've been burning it up over here about long-term care, Connie Hunt, and you've also taught in our system for at least 20 years because I've known you that long. So, are you still with us? Do you have a thought you want to share? Connie Hunt, did you go take a nap? I know you're not. I'm sorry, that wasn't very nice. I would be. Okay, Tanya Canaday, do you want to say something?
I'm here.
Oh, hey, Connie.
Hey, sorry.
That's
Yes.
okay.
You want me to share some thoughts beyond what I wrote in my?
Sure, share
Okay.
anything you'd like.
Well, I mean, I do have 25 years experience of teaching long-term care, mostly in the ACD program, but of course I have taught it in the LPN. I do have really big concerns about how we would make sure that we get all the rules and regs into the curriculum to teach the students, because we know they go out here, they get a job when they get licensed, and immediately they're put in charge of the whole entire, 60 patients, and needing to know how to chart as a LPN in the home health or in the nursing home setting. But even beyond that, knowing how to advise their nurse aides on what to do. And I just think we're going to miss that component possibly if we don't make sure that it's put in somewhere in objective form, or, I've gotten some feedback from people, and I get, some of the thoughts that I've been looking at is they do go to nursing homes for clinical, even if they don't, necessarily have the long-term care in their class or in their curriculum, but they do go to nursing homes, and, they talk about those things there. I'm just concerned that part will be missed if we completely do away with long-term care for a PN student. I like the idea personally of requiring them to have their long-term care certification before they come in. And then we don't have to worry about that. We do, however, want to go back and review all vitals and all of that with them.
Right.
But
then it's a review, not a teach.
Right. Yeah. But that's kind of where I'm coming from on my, on my concerns there. So, but I still am very old school too. So, but
I understand.
Yeah.
I was just thinking too, that in Concepts, which may be called something else now, but Concepts has a legal ethical chapter, and maybe when we're learning about legal, when we're learning about supervision, maybe that's a good time to talk about what, the group that you would mainly be supervising, they could do that too. I mean, we could add an objective. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking too, when state comes in and does their reviews of the facility, nursing assistants have to know not to go out, into the hallway with their gloves on. Plus that LPN needs to know that they need to reinforce those things with them, and having the linen cart so many feet away from the dirty linen cart. And there's just so many things that I'm just thinking, they're just running through my mind of, how, that those things could possibly be missed
Right.
along the way.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else not afraid to say something? Oh, we've got some other comments over here that we get long-term care in clinical 1. Some of it's covered in TTP, as well as nursing concepts or introduction to nursing, delegation, teamwork, leadership, legal, ethical, and then also covered in transition to practice, the long-term care information. How about, Linda, do you have your hand up again?
That would be me. This is Rhonda. I feel that long-term care should stay in the framework as it is now. If we were to move something, I would rather move A&P, because a lot of our students come in and they're not even close to being up to what they should be for their A&P. So they're getting it online or they're getting it in high school, and they really struggle with their A&P.
Okay, meaning that it should be, that anatomy and physiology should be part of your framework.
Yes.
Not something that's a prerequisite.
Correct.
Okay, I understand.
Or maybe just a refresher on it, or to bring them up where they need to be, because they just don't have a clue when they come in our program.
Right. A lot of times, and I don't know if this is still true, but a lot of times people utilize assessments, whatever your final assessment might be for your anatomy and physiology, could be the prerequisite in order for them to actually get to count that they would have to pass your test. I mean, there's things that you as an individual instructor can do to add to, or to confirm their abilities.
Right.
Yeah. So Corey, you have your hand raised?
I did. I'm going to have to hop off, but I wanted to thank everyone who's on this call today. I was trying to just sit back and listen and absorb all the information and only interject when I had to, but I truly believe in relying upon the experts, and you all are the experts in the field. You all rely upon your advisory committees to kind of determine the focus, and we need to bring all of that information together. The idea is that we're going to have to put something in the framework. We're going to have a template. Like I said, ideally, we'd like to have the standard, but we also know where you all are at in your program. So I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed or feel like we're asking you to do something more than you're already doing, because that's not the case. We truly want your input. We want you to know your opinion matters and it's valuable. So thank you once again, and I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey. Melanie, you haven't said anything from Northwest Tech. You got anything up your sleeve?
I was just thinking about the anatomy thing and how far behind, like, I don't know about other areas, but our students come in blank on anatomy. They don't have a clue. And so we have to have anatomy in our curriculum. And the way Tara teaches it is absolutely phenomenal. She teaches more the nursing physiology aspect of it. So it helps if they come in with an anatomy class, but she teaches phys in the nursing way. And I think everybody should teach anatomy like Tara, because she does teach it so well. And she is potentially not going to be here much longer. So I'm trying to get on that little hump so that I can teach it as well as she does, hopefully.
Maybe we could get her to video all of her things, and maybe she could teach us how to do it.
She is great. I'm telling you, I have learned from her anatomy since I've been here in the last 3 years. It's phenomenal.
That's good to know. I love it. Okay. I had a feeling Tara might have to. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I feel some sort of a training coming on. I don't know.
Tara's anatomy is phenomenal, beyond all words.
Yeah. Crystal Gleese, you have anything?
No,
I'm kind of the mind, if we're looking at hours, if the entire kind of thing was input from our instructors to see what the hours are, I'm more of the mind to say, well, our board of nursing accredits all of us. So that's, we've got that. So either make it be like the ODCTE is a minimum of 1,300 hours, or even if we leave it the same, because I think we're all kind of hitting roughly the 1,463, leave it as is. That way nobody has to go into a panic about changing everything at that point.
Right. That is the absolute last thing that I want to do, is cause a panic or make anyone change what you're doing. I just need something that will get us down the line and tell me what I need to be doing. So I think we have some really good information. I've asked Darlene to send me the document that she showed. I would like to send that. I will separate out from the old to the new and just put the new in a document, or I may have it on my iDrive in there. Who knows? I just didn't have time this morning to look for it. So I'll go out and pull that information. I would love I'm still going to send it back out to all practical nursing. So I see your faces. I know some of you didn't have anything that you wanted to say. I know it's scary to be on here, but I would love if you have some specifics for me or things you would like for me or the PN directors to consider when we get together. I think directors, everyone's like, we were really worried last week what this was going to do. Are we in a better place now? You can just nod. I mean, no one's, nothing's going to change on your campus. No one's going to make you do anything different. But I have really appreciated all the, amen, Amanda. I've appreciated all the feedback. I'm someone who likes a lot of information, and that's how I make decisions. And so I hope everyone has enjoyed hearing different perspectives and, just different ways to look at things. Good call, Denise Webb. Not everyone has a SIM coordinator or a SIM certification. I definitely think we will keep that in mind and probably keep that out of the instructional framework and let that be an individual school by school decision on how they count their hours and so on, because we are all in very different places when it comes to having someone with that background. So what other things would you guys like to say as a final hoorah? Did I just waste 2 of your hours this morning and you're going, oh crap? Or you could require us to have, nice try. Yeah, I'm going to tell, where is Shelly Hovis? I'm going to tell her she needs 7. She needs 9 SIM coordinators. She's going to love that. Yup. No way. I'm scared of her. I would never do that. Your blood pressure is better. Oh, Amanda, come on now. I know they do just need one for their school. That's right. We got to get, so speaking of, we do have a boot camp for simulation. I believe it's a 1-day workshop in Tulsa, and it's going to be, I want to say it's November 14th or 15th, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So be watching Did You Knows for that. And if you have people that would like to learn a little bit more about simulation, or you all just want to send somebody, I'm sure they would love to have you there. Thank you, November 13th. I was off by 1 day, November 13th. So Yeah, we'll have that, and there's no, I don't believe there's any registration to that. So it would be just something you could get into this semester. Anything else? Okay, all my administration out there, I hope you're okay. Everyone can breathe a little bit easier now. Yay, team! Okay, well, I'll see you guys on the flip side, and I'll be looking for an email from you, okay? Thank you. Let's see, recording off.